So we're gonna continue our talks on the Mahavir, explanation of what he really means by ahimsa and what he really means by non-violence. This was the term coined by him for the first time. There are a lot of unique words that he has created and contributed, and each one had a tremendous meaning. And those kind of words can come out only when you reach to the bottom of
Kevalya stage.
Right. So a lot of these words you will have difficulty understanding, and obviously because we are not where he was, so we're gonna be trying to learn whatever he said based on whatever we are. And we are not there. So we always will have a high likelihood of misinterpreting what he said. And that's exactly what happened in the Jain community. Non-violence is not killing, and that's it. So it's like a negative definition. Ahimsa is not non-killing, because he would have known that killing is just not possible. Killing to the body, but Atma is always there, and Atma is always Amar. So he would not give a definition like that. So we would go further, deeper into the meaning of ahimsa. The problem is going to be difficult for us to understand him is because we are so caught up in the sansara. And because we have sansaric eyes, from sansaric point of view, to understand a spiritual entity is always going to be difficult. We are caught up in the cycle of repetitiveness. We are repeating the same thing again and again, and yet we are not fed up with that. We are born, we gather things, we do few things here and there, and we die. So Mahavir does not call this a life. He says real life has to be something better than this. The boredom is a very unique characteristic that is gifted only to the humans. Animals never get bored of doing whatever they're doing. So from the boredom is a springboard from where you can launch one way or the other. India was at the same spot that America is right now. It was rich, powerful, full of wealth, wisdom, and all those things started springing up. But East took the different approach. They were also getting bored. Don't think that whatever you're doing has not been done before. It is being done by others right now as you are in the process of accumulating, for example, or doing this, or showing off, or building up some position in the society, or whatever. Everybody is doing that. You just don't know because you cannot read their mind. When you meet somebody and you just shake hands, doesn't mean you know him or her thoroughly. Whatever is going on in his mind, what are his aspirations, what are his desires, you don't know. So whatever you're doing, but we think we are doing it for the first time. You look at the zest in the eyes of a child. When the child is born, he's so looking for something exciting. Everything he sees, he gets excited. But he does not know that this is not the first time he has seen it either. The trauma of death and trauma of birth, they both are significant traumas. It makes you wipe off your memories, but it gets stored in a very, very deeper layers of your mind. So Mahavir and Buddha, they both had a technique of making their followers realize, they call Jati Smara, that you go deep within, and they had some special techniques where you could realize what your previous births were. And from those previous births and experiences, you could tell that whatever you're doing now, you're not doing anything new. Thousands and thousands and millions of people have died. Right underneath this earth itself, you will see at least get 10 dead skeletons, if not humans, being the America is a newer country, maybe some animals. And every single human being in India probably would have 100 actual human beings being buried underneath you, because there were billions of people existed before you, and it's going to go on. And each person had his own ideas, his own beliefs, his own desires to gain. Genghis Khan is buried and Alexander is buried too, all with their own desires and all, and yet we don't learn. For us, our desires are the most important thing, and we want to go on and on and on. Mahavir wants you to realize the repetitiveness of this. So what East did to the boredom of the mind is to transcend the mind. And West, what it's doing is giving new gadgets to go into the another cycles of repetitiveness. Just 8-10 years back, or 15-20 years back, writing a letter was the only way to communicate. But then came the phone calls, the telephones came in. We got so excited. Now who wants to talk? We have FaceTime. And all these things keep on coming to keep us occupied in the sansar. And sansar is not just the physical sansar that we talk about. Sansar is in our mind. So we'll get into more details what is really sansar. But it's the repetitiveness you want to come out of. And it requires an intellectual mind to understand the repetitiveness. Because people who never really ask the questions what the life is about, that inquisitiveness, you have to have it. Without that, you cannot take any step. So far, you have been doing all your life, unfortunately, whatever you've been doing for millions of lives before, and that's why you're still here. For the first time, if at all, it strikes you that whatever I'm doing is something that's not giving me a permanent source of pleasure. Is there anything else out there? So repetitiveness, Mahavir says, is something that is done out of unawareness, is when you are asleep. You just wake up in the morning, you don't even know where your car keys are, but being in your own house, you know exactly where they are. You pick up the car keys, you start driving the car, and you've been driving for a long time. The roads are all familiar, all the famous landmarks. You're even seeing the patients, they thought, oh, it's hypertension, diabetes, just do this, and this. All without awareness, and the money comes piling up at the end of the day, and you're happy. And if that's all there was, Mahavir would not have given up his kingdom. He, in his days, he had everything that he could have asked for, being a prince. But he saw the repetitiveness and a boredom in that. So when you are in a situation where everything is taken care of course, when things are not taken care of, that's one thing. When you need your basic needs, you need to act. But once those needs are met up, meanwhile, your mind has created a habit of running after objects and more desires and more desires. At that point, Mahavir wants you to wake up. And that awareness that the whole thing that you're going through is repetitiveness and it's not taking you anywhere. You're spreading horizontally, but you're never going vertically. So Krishna says the same thing. Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasat. Abhyas means repetitiveness. Once you know, you can do it. Doing rituals, going to the temple. Even that can be a ritual. You wake up in the morning, you're so comfortable that your spouse is home and spouse is going to work or spouse is not going to work. Whatever, everything is preset basically. So there is really nothing to think of. So repetitiveness dulls your mind. So Krishna says, Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasat. You have to know what you're doing. That is the first step coming out of the repetitiveness. So both are against abhyas or repetitiveness. Mahavir says the same thing, that there is something more to life than what you're doing. So Krishna says, Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasat dhyanat gnanam vishishyate. So compared to just knowing, do dhyan on it. Do something. Dhyan is better than gnan. Gnan is better than abhyas. So, Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasat dhyanat gnanam vishishyate. So, gnan compared to gnan, dhyan is important. Go inside. What you're going to find out. This is Krishna saying that. So, Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasat dhyanat gnanam abhishyate vishishyate gnanat karma phala tyagas. Just to have knowledge of the self is not enough. But he wants you to act, like Vijay said. Karma yoga is the ultimate proof what you have really learned inside. Inside is the elementary school. But outside is the real world where you're going to be really performing your actions. So once you know who you are, then karma phal tyagas is possible. Otherwise, knowing without yourself, karma phal tyagas, you give up the phal, you do the karma. Because tyagas, shanti, anantamam. Because tyag is the only thing that will give you ananta shanti. our shanti is destroyed only because we are attached to the fruits of the action. Fruits of the actions, meaning those actions are performed in 4 dimensions: height, width, depth, and time. That's all we know. In that, we create the imagination of the future results. So as soon as the future comes into an action, your mind is active. Mind means your ego is active, your desires are active, your hatreds is active, your liking is active, your disliking is active, all your running is going to be active. Buddha says the only gati is towards the soul. All other gatis that you have done, you put all of them together and compare that to one gati, which you're walking away from all these things, not physically, mentally. That's the real gati. That Buddha says, that's the ultimately your progress, and that's your ultimate destination. If you succeed, you will not be born again. Where is the karma? There is no karma. Once you reach to your soul state and you don't have to be born, all the cycles, repetitive cycles are gone because you don't have desires of repetitiveness. So repetitiveness is the ultimate thing to be blamed, and yet we do this all the time. You can be repetitively going to the temple, you could be repetitively doing your own work, you could be repetitively doing the alcohol, you could be repetitively doing the smoking, you could be repetitively, anything that keeps you occupied into doing things without even thinking. The only thing, when you are sitting here and thinking of the next shot of whiskey, the pleasure of the whiskey is already in your head. So where is the karma phal tyag? You're going to be doing the karma with full awareness that I'm going to be enjoying the whiskey. You are living in the future. The future is already here, the present is killed. So to kill the present, either the past is necessary. In that you can say, well, I didn't like that whiskey, so I like this whiskey. So you're living the full-fledged life of past, present, and future. So the present involves only to satisfy the future. So you will make an effort to do whatever it needs to get the future result. Mahavir says, come out of all these things. The same gulab jambu that you're going to eat, how many times have you eaten? And how many times, for the first time that you tasted, and thousands of gulab jambu in between you have done it, you never get tired of it. And that's the beauty. That's why we cannot be Mahavir or Krishna, to that matter. So East developed the spirituality, and Mahavir went into the deep layers of the mind. Even Vasishtha's yoga says, how many relatives I can cry for? He says, if I had only this set of relatives, 15, 20, 100 people, fine, I could cry it out. But if I go think about my previous lives, I have millions. How many people I'm going to cry for? Because once you realize, so even being attached to your family is a repetitiveness. You saw in the news, there was those migrants were coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that one guy lost his wife and 2 kids, and the boat capsized. And once he reached to the shore, he says, I have nothing to live for. My whole life is gone. Even if I get the best possible life in Turkey, what good is that? So that again shows his attachment, because without his wife and children, he's gone. So if you really look at it, all these attachments are repetitively created. From the first time he married his wife, to the first child he had, to the second child he had, to the close context develop repetitive bondages. Mahavir called this bondage. And bondage is preventing you from the freedom. So the bondage is there whether we know it or not, whether we give a beautiful word to it, and I'm sure you will have millions of people agreeing with you that, oh, the guy says, I can lose everything as long as I have my family, I'm fine. But what if you lose your family? Then he's done. It's like a spider who has 6 legs. If one leg is cut off, he may say, okay, I can still hobble. 2, fine. 6 of them, he has no life left. He said, I would rather die. Because that's all he knew. Except he has a silk thread that he can hook it up to Krishna and fly. He doesn't need any legs, but nobody knows that. We are living in a society where this Windows operating system is everywhere. Every computer ultimately runs on Windows. It's so tough to find anything else. We are all built in the same way. We cannot come out of it. So Mahavir says, to come out of it, you're going to need awareness. And awareness, dhyan, is the way to create the awareness. Awareness is going to discern whether you're acting with your ego, or awareness is going to discern whether you're acting with your ego. And that awareness is nothing but Krishna consciousness. So it's the consciousness that is required. Krishna says, offer everything to me. So again, accept the highest entity and offer everything to me. So, because Mahavir says his path is different, he starts with dhyan, unlike Patanjali. For Patanjali, the dhyan comes at the end. For Mahavir, dhyan comes first. And from dhyan, he says you develop jnana. Dhyan is the self-knowledge, your knowledge of the self, who you are. So from dhyan, you develop jnana. From jnana, you darshan. Darshan is reflection of your own self onto everybody else. That's where karma phal will come into action. You're doing something, I want to do something. If I don't have the knowledge of myself, if I'm meeting you for the first time, my ego will thinking how much I can make out of him. How can I sell my Amway things or whatever? How can I make him my patient or whatever? I'm at myself, my physical self, my ego is the most important to me. But once I have realization of myself, my Atma, I would see the same Atma in you, and Mahavir calls it darshan. So dhyan se gnan, gnan se darshan, and then darshan se charitra. Charitra that we see is only a pathway in between. Because once I know that you have the same Atma, how can I cheat you? How can I harass you? How can I practice my greed on you? I will practice my soul on you. And then whatever I want for myself, I'll be wanting for you. And even then, Mahavir does not rest there. He says, Charitra is only a step. Because from that, you have harmonious relationship with the whole world. Whatever is happening in the world, you have no problem with. And then you go withdraw yourself. Then tap, sadhana, and then tap to moksh. So all your pratyahar and all that Patanjali says, that comes in the end. So these are different pathways, of course, and you have to select whichever works out the best for you. So if you really look at the journey that we all are taking, we're doing a lot of repetitive stuff. And for that, Mahavir says, it's time to wake up and realize the futility of all these things and come out of it. So, but the followers of the Mahavir have taken it totally wrong. They have mupatti on their face so they don't kill the bugs and all that. To show the sympathy for the bugs. Where they walk, they will clean out the path so that they don't kill the bugs. They will not walk on the grass so that the grass doesn't get hurt. I mean, nothing wrong with any of these things, but the Mahavir says that that is not the reason why you should not kill the bugs. Mahavir, being that he reached to the soul level, he saw the same soul everywhere else. Not killing is a positivity for Mahavir. He's not saying that if you kill the ant is going to die and the karma you're going to build up. The karma is already built up within you before you even do the act, because you have intention to kill the ant. So Mahavir is saying that not killing the ant or not hurting someone is meaningless. If you know you are the soul and you are the Atma, that other person or other creature has the same Atma. It may not be as developed as your Atma, but that's besides the point. The point is Atma as an Atma needs a respect, and it needs to be developing in its own way. Each creature or each entity that's walking around, including the trees and the birds, and each one has their own karmas, and they have to transcend their karmas before they can reach. So they are on their journey to the moksh, all of us. So who are you to interfere with that? Non-interference can happen only if you have a soft heart and if you have realized the soul. That I am so pure that I have no desires from the world. I don't have anything that is left for me to gain myself. and I want to stay steady in my own soul, in a brahmacharya state, in that state, if I have a full respect for an ant that is passing by, that's called non-violence for Mahavir. Because there is no positive word for something like this. He will have to go through so much explanation to explain a positive Atma like that. So the purest of the purest Atma that he had, he said it's out of respect for everyone's gati. The gati that everyone is on, I have a full respect for that. Fine, if he's sitting and without his knowledge, if ant decides to come under his feet and dies, then again it met its own niyati. Mahavir described as a niyati. That is the ultimate fate that it met. But it should not happen because of my carelessness. That's all. So there are a lot of things involved in the concept of non-violence. So when the Jains say that I did this and I did this so that the ants didn't die, or the small nigodas they call, small bugs did not die. So again, the doership comes into an action that because of you, that ant survived. So when the doership comes into action, it's only ego. And you can make an ego out of it, that I prevented these injuries, I am doing this and I am doing that and I am doing that. And as soon as the doership comes in, where are you? Your awareness is gone. And even that becomes a repetitive action. It becomes mechanical. You just wake up in the morning, put the mopati on and start doing this and this and that. Just like anything else, everything is, again, the purpose is defeated. Then you don't know what you're doing. So, ahimsa of Mahavir is similar to Buddha's, they call tathata. Tathata is the total acceptability of the ultimate thing that is happening, that is in front of you. Because whatever scene is created with every single person that is sitting here, including the walls and including the trees and the sun that has come out, each one has their own fate. And each one had built up their karmas. And they are here because of their karmas. So whatever is being happening, if you want to change that, you would have to change all that background that they have gone through to have your desired result that you would want to have, and change the circumstances. So when you are not stepping on the ant so that the ant can live, you are a fool. Then you are putting yourself above the niyati, beyond, over and above the tathata. Tathata, Buddha says, is a total acceptance of whatever is happening inside without any disturbance. You require tremendous sthit prajna state to be able to be just an observer, drashta drashti. So he would say, I would not make any attempts, it depends upon the outer circumstances, to be more happy. Because again, to be more happy, I will need an ego. Because whatever is I have, not enough, I need more. Or I will not run away from unhappy situation either. Because again, that will require an ego to fight the unhappiness. So according to Mahavir, to have an ego is a violence. It's like you carrying a knife ready to be used anywhere. Now the question is whether you use it or not is on one thing, but eventually it's going to make you do it because you are under control of your ego. You are not your own control. Ego is false. Ego is based on your identification. I am this, and I am that. At some point along the line, the ego is going to act. And ego is mechanical. Ego is totally mechanical. For example, if you make a notebook and write down each person that you know and make a page, and as mentally, say you start losing each person at a time. One page is gone, another page is ripped, third one is gone. At the end of the day, 100 pages are gone and you're left with nothing, and you disappear. You don't know that you exist. But Mahavir says you still exist. Even without those 100 pages, you still exist. But for us, everything is like, if I have 100 people that I know, and if one person dies, I am only 99% full. I am empty by 1%. The same way, if person is loving each other, say boyfriend and girlfriend, at that time everything is 100%, of course. That's how it starts. It starts with fantasy, That parents don't matter, other friends don't matter, boyfriend and girlfriend are 100% for each other. Relationship moves on, 6 months, a year happens, and the girlfriend finds somebody else on the side. So all of a sudden the boyfriend finds out that, oh, what happened? You were giving me 100%. Now you're giving me only 50%. So the other guy is getting another 50%. So he's not happy. Now wouldn't you call that ego mechanical? It's material. So obviously there are divisions. If it was infinite, a true love, there would not be any divisions. But there are divisions. Until, of course, the boyfriend finds another girlfriend who is ready to share her 25%. And then it goes on. Sansar is set up. We are in sansar. Our love is sansari. Our identifications are sansari. Everything is sansar. Mahavir says that sansar is the illusion. You cannot experience an infinite love staying in the middle of sansaric life. So sansaric life has to be transcended, at least in your head, that all this, that so-called love and relationship and I love you and that love you and oh, I have so many friends and I have so many relatives, and all that are temporary measures to fill your own ego. As soon as one leg is gone, you feel in a short supply. Then whatever 5 legs are left, all the 5 legs get 100% attention. One parent is gone, the another person gets 100% attention, because now that's all I have left now. So our feelings are material. Our thoughts are material. Even our concept of God is material. Because we can only talk in measurements, right? Because we say, oh, God is infinite. Only because we know we are finite. So finite is material. Our definition that God is infinite. But that's not a definition. How is it a negative definition to define God on the basis of human beings? As if God exists only for human beings. What about the birds? They cannot measure it. They cannot think of any material life. They just live. So a lot of our definitions of God are also negativistic. But then that's the only way to do it, because the only way to go to the Godhood is to experience it. And that's where our talks goes on, right? So dharma is a positivity. Dharma is never a negative situation where I don't have this, I don't do this, I don't do that. If I don't do this, I am good, I am at dharma, I did my dharma. If I did not do this, you're doing a bad karma. And there are people, enough volunteers to make you feel guilty that, oh, you did not go to the temple, so how could it be doing a good dharma? And things like that. So that the whole society is woven in the materialism. And to realize that as an illusion is the starting towards the spirituality. So when you can give 100% freedom to the other person, whether that person likes you or not in return, is the first glimpse of love that you can give. So for Mahavir, is the respect to the other soul. For Mahavir, there is no concept of God. He says that every soul is God. Every Atma is Paramatma. There are crores of Paramatmas, and each Paramatma is infinite. And that's the only way it's possible. I always think that it's funny, right? Because they say, when you go and your soul, when you become Jivatma to Antaratma to Paramatma and your own soul, but soul has no shape, no size. But then there are millions of souls. So how could define one soul to another? Unless you reach to a totally infinite state where everything is merged, right? So Mahavir says the same thing as Paramatma, that there are billions of Paramatmas. But that conflict, I think, can be solved only when you go to the Advait state, where there is no duality. But that's, again, it's your journey. You have to take and you have to convince yourself. So Mahavir says the respect for other souls is ahimsa. And right after you have respect for someone, automatically karuna, bhav and love follows. It cannot stay behind. I cannot have respect for you and have not love for you. Mahavir says that you develop one good characteristic and all the other goodnesses will follow. You cannot be angry and love person at the same time. You cannot be cheating someone and love somebody at the same time. It's like all the negativistic things hang out together and all positive things hang out together. Once you love somebody, you cannot cheat them. How can you? But one thing leads to another. It's like that famous joke, the Mullah Nasruddin was called into the court. So the judge is asking that, Mullah, did you cheat on your wife? He said, no, I never do that. He says, did you ever steal from anybody? He said, no, I am a very ethical person. How about drinking? No, I don't touch the drink at all. How about gambling? No, I can't. My wife won't. No, I don't do that. So then what's your vice? So I don't have too many vices. You got to have one. He says, yeah, I have one. I lie all the time. So again, one thing leads to another. It's all interwoven, right? So Mahavir says that ahimsa is the basis of everything, where you have to have a respect for all the souls around you, and along with that, the love and karuna will follow. So he says that I want to live in this world so that I am not a nimit, and nimit for anything that is happening around me. If somebody cuts short their journey towards moksha because of me, I don't want to be responsible for that. And if I happen to be there, I would not be the reason for the demise of that end. So nimit is a beautiful word. It comes from nimish. Nimish is the measurement of the fraction of the time that is happening at that moment. Mish means to measure. It's like meter that we have. When you measure, there is a word meter, and that's how the metric system, everything created. So they are saying that nimish is something you cannot measure. It is so fast and so small that even atomic clocks cannot measure it. Unmeasurable. So that's the smallest fraction of the time that exists, that you have it available. That's they call nimish. And nimish is so short, so tiny, that it does not leave any room for an action. Because action is in a 4-dimension. Action requires something at least to act for. By the time you act, the moment is gone, that nimish. So anybody who happens to share that nimish is called nimit. It's like the Mullah Nasruddin was a very established hunter, and him and his friend went to hunt rabbits in the woods. So they are sitting there, their guns are ready, everything loaded, ammunition is ready, and they're hiding behind the bush. And all of a sudden one rabbit jumps and goes. So Mullah Nasruddin says, what happened? I thought you were going to press the trigger. And he says, I thought you were going to press the trigger. He says, all my everything was ready, but the rabbit was just too fast for me. That's what nimish is about. Where all your actions, doerships, fall apart. That's how tiny that time is. Jainism they call kalpa. Kalpa is so tiny that you cannot measure, and it does not leave any room for action. If you really bring yourself down to at a very subtle level, the time is moving so fast that action, the doership, becomes meaningless. At that time, what do? If you have a mechanical mind, material mind, and you want to act no matter what, but the God has created such a beautiful entity in front of you, you give up. You bow down. All you can do is enjoy the moment. And that's being in the present moment. So the nimit is a beautiful word. So Mahavir says that no matter what, I do not want to be the nimit of the fate that ends their journey because of me. But what do we do? Even Mahavir said, if I'm trying to catch somebody's attention, that is also violence. If I dress up in such a way that another person looks inferior, then I already created the violence. Because now the other person, either he's going to try his best to look better than me next party, or he's going to go out of his way, even if he cannot afford such and such suit or such and such tie or whatever, he's going to, where did you get that from, whatever. All those unnecessary cycles are going to start in his mind. And what is he getting into? Repetitiveness. That his belief that material things can make you happy is going to start in his head, and he's caught up in that repetitive cycle. I became responsible for his repetitiveness. When I try to draw attention to somebody else's, from someone else, I'm already attracted to them. So I'm already caught up in the repetitive cycle. On top of that, I'm doing some action that makes other people again getting into the repetitive cycle. Mahavir says that's violence. Same token, earlier we discussed that making somebody happy is not possible. Making somebody unhappy is also not possible. Happiness or unhappiness are your states of mind. If I'm wearing a beautiful suit and other person is feeling guilty, of course, his own inner desire to be recognized is hurt. Now his ego has cut down. One leg is gone. He's going to try to rebuild that leg by wearing another expensive suit tomorrow. But all those efforts, all that energy that he's spending, he could have put that energy to the wise use to go higher and develop wisdom and intellect. Instead of that, he's wasting. Mahavir and Buddha's inner state of sthita prajna state was so calm. Imagine a calm ocean. There is not a single wave. But the desire for sukh is a wave. Desire to run away from dukh is a wave. So any disturbances, they say, is going to perpetuate longer consequences in the society. It requires only a single thought to destroy the journey, karmic journey of millions of lives. One bad thought in a Hitler's head is all that is required to go on and kill 6 million Jews. All he had in his mind that Aryan race is the most superior race and everybody else has to be discriminated and destroyed. So it ended up killing. So ideas even that I am superior to somebody else is also can be responsible for violence and unimaginable destructions in the society. So he says that even thoughts that you create can be a disturbance and can be a cause of suffering. But what do? We want us to be known wherever we go. We want attention. We want to look smarter. We want to look handsome. We want to look more beautiful. This and that. We want to talk about such and such language, such and such knowledge that you bring in that impresses everybody. We are constantly in efforts to impress others. Mahavir says that's violence. Advertising, campaigns that's going on. Who would have imagined one campaign of that Marlboro man? All it took was that one thought, and there is a guy's name, I forgot his name, he's from Chicago. It was such a successful campaign to sell Marlboro cigarettes, and it caused unimaginable destructions across the society. So many cancers, so many emphysema, people still suffering, and the family suffering, and all those things. So our efforts to try to impress on somebody else without reaching to the self state, without achieving jnana, the knowledge of the self, if you try to impress somebody, you will be impressing only at your mind level. And at mind level, you are no different than somebody else. It's one blind leading another blind. That's all. So until you have eyes, do not try to lead anybody, because it's going to be counterproductive. So we identify, because that's all we know. At mind level, we know only mind and the body. The existence, the spiritual existence does not exist for us, spiritual entity, because we have limited knowledge. We know our body and we know our mind. If you want to transcend the mind, you have to come out of the body and come out of the mind. Not physically, but internally. To come out of the mind to the body is not that difficult. You start eating and you feel full. Theoretically, body is already telling you that you're full. Why do you have to eat more? But the mind takes over. Now, mind is not a digestive organ. So we're making mind do the digestive work. That no, 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 you still need it. So the mind stays above. Same thing happens for the sex. The mind ultimately starts creating imaginations and gets you more and more involved. So mind is superior to all the five senses, but the mind does not let you rest. So more difficult nowadays is not to control the body, but to control the mind, which is controlling the body. So ultimate controller is the mind. And mind will come out of itself only if it sees the repetitiveness. That repetitiveness is a springboard. We do not realize that getting bored is a very good characteristic that we have, that far above and above the animals. So when you grab the next iPhone or the next movie or the next alcohol or next marijuana or next run for more money, think yourself that how far you have come with all these things. Is it going to take you anywhere better than what you are now, and at what cost? All the energy, see, all the thoughts which are created at the mind level, we don't pay attention to it, but they are all energy. It's your inner energy that you are utilizing to create the thoughts. Now, whether the thoughts are neutral whether they are for bringing sukh or dukh, happiness or unhappiness, your happiness or world's happiness, doesn't matter, they are all thoughts. But when those thoughts are kept at their source, which is the infinite energy that the soul has provided you, that's when you come to a standstill. And that's when you realize that all these futile actions I have created and I have performed so many times in the past, and I am still where I was. And you're going to die where you are, unfortunately, until you start taking the journey into the Atma. So this is a very subtle violence that Mahavir says we are performing. Now, if you become aware and then start analyzing every single action that we're doing, it requires a lot of awareness. And that awareness is going to make us realize, so requires a lot of introspection. One of the method Mahavir also taught his sishyas, that at the end of the day, before you go to bed, go through the whole day, relive your day, starting from the time you woke up till the bed that brings you to that moment. Every person that you talk to, every action that you did, totally unbiased. Do not judge whether you did right or wrong. Forget about, Mahavir says there is nothing right and nothing wrong. It's all relative. My right may be wrong for you, your right may be wrong for me. Doesn't matter. So without judging, just observe. And you will, it's like a film, it will go through. I try that a lot of times. So from the time, a lot of times you will remember what thoughts came in your head even. Then when you were taking this turn, what language, what sentence you spoke to such and such person. Well, what was their reaction? Look at it from inside. And that's the introspection that you can do at the end of the day. That is your first step towards the journey. And then realize that Atma is there. Atma is real. It's not fake or it's not imaginary. Otherwise, Mahavir would not have spent 12 years in seclusion, So we do a lot of things which are violent and we are not even aware of it. Sometimes now things are obvious, okay, driving beautiful car or wearing those clothes, yeah. But sometimes not wearing clothes can be also ways to attract people's attentions. There are Digambar Swamis, I mean, nowadays it doesn't really work out, so they have to be surrounded by 15 people. So all those 15 people's karma are now hooked on saving one person from walking into the society so that society does not see him naked. The Digambar Swami. But again, he's hooked on it that being naked itself gets a lot of respect. So again, he's trading in sansar. Sansar is not over for him. So, or wearing simple clothes, or wearing bhagwa clothes, or whatever. If it requires attention, again, you wearing those clothes only to attract attention from others. And then you are in sansar. Mahavir says you have not left sansar. So it's all play of the ego. So Mahavir says ego is mechanical, is material. Everything is material. Your spiritual journey is long way. And we learn this at a very, very young age. Even a child. For example, if the child is in the house and we have guests coming, and you tell the child, he says, take it easy. Don't create any drama. We really want to pay attention to, they are very important people coming in. And the child will say, what happened now? All these days, mom never said that, but today he made a special remark that don't do this and don't do that. Now his ego is hurt because so far he was the most ladla of the house, but now all of a sudden he's no more. The guest becomes important. So all of a sudden, as soon as the guest can say, Mom, I'm hungry. So all of a sudden he has to have food. And he says, I need to go to the bathroom. So now mom is requires attention. So we learn all these things, techniques, right from the time we are born. Right? But that's what because that's all he sees. Wife may be very, very happy. Her friend is visiting, they're chatting along and having a great time. As soon as the friend leaves and the husband comes, the wife has a headache. I can't take this anymore. I got to go to sleep. So again, we do these tricks all the time. We manipulate the relationships for our better satisfaction. Ego is everywhere. If you really look at the very subtle layers of our everyday actions, that's all we are. We are ego. We are nothing but ego. So where is the journey? So Mahavir says, realize all these things. You do not have to leave the house. You stay exactly where you are, but analyze all your actions and then realize what your mind is telling you. Transcend the mind. And that's where the joy of infinite existence will come in. Mahavir himself, he wanted to tell his mother that he wanted to take sannyas. He wanted to go into the woods and practice sannyas. But mother was very unhappy. He says, no, don't even bring this up till I die. So Mahavir stayed back. He says, even my remarks, if it's going to make my mother upset, it's not worth it. So for almost 6-7 years, it lasted. Then mother died. Now Mahavir saw his opportunity. So as they were returning from the funeral place, he told his brother, he says, now mother is dead, can I go? So brother got upset. He says, Mom just died and you talking about sannyas right now. He says, can't you find a better time to say those things? So again, his elder brother, he did not want to disrespect his feelings. He says, okay, no problem. But as the time goes, then recognize that Mahavir is just so much involved in his own self that he doesn't want to really merge with anything, so that any of his action does not create a conflict and does not hurt anybody's feelings. And they saw that he was literally living but literally dead almost. So at that point, brother says, if you really want to pursue your journey after another 5-6 years, so go ahead. That's when he allowed Mahavir to leave his house, and that's when he went in with him. So the key thing is Mahavir, Buddha, Krishna, all Tirthankars, they were all princes. They all had seen the good days of life, and yet they saw the futility. Mahavir did that, Buddha did that. Buddha saw the day-to-day routine life, but it does not wake us up, but it woke him up. So Mahavir says, practice ahimsa, which is the same thing as the tathata. Accept everything that is out there. Do not consider yourself as a creator of the moment. A lot of revolutions are happening, and the people who happen to be the leader at that time, they think that I carried out this revolution. Revolutions happen. There was a study that was done actually way back. They said the revolutions had something to do with the sunspots. It says a lot of fluctuations in the energy and all those things. The guy actually timed that every 11 years things that are happening, and he timed and made a graph out of it and all that. He was killed by Stalin because Stalin could not take that theory. He says that what's the point? He says I am the one who's important. See, revolution is a massive flow of energy that is all synchronized, and it's like a huge ocean wave coming up, and one tiny piece of fallen leaf is sitting there. All of a sudden it rises to the fame and thinks that he's the one who is responsible for carrying out this big wave of revolution. So Mahavir says the ego is the violence. Think of yourself as the most important person is violence. Ultimately it's going to destroy so many other people's egos. Let them have their own journey, and you take your own journey, because trying to prevent other journeys, you missing your opportunity to hold on to that energy, the pool of energy that you can have, you can save, and it can lead to tap. tap is nothing but it's actual heat of your. In the tap, you kill your vasanas. It's just like the fire burns everything, the inside, the pratyahara, and then lead to tap, which is the term coined by Mahavir. He says that's where you burn your desires at your senses level, desire of your ears and your eyes and touch and smell and all that, where you withdraw yourself and go within, and that's where the ultimate pot of happiness lies. And so that's why Mahavir made ahimsa as the first and the most important, because then only your journey to the higher self can happen. You cannot enjoy your senses actively, willingly, with a doership and say, oh no, I am doing sadhana. It's just not possible, because your energy is going to be divided and you'll be losing a lot of special energy into all these unnecessary actions that you're performing at the doership level. So Mahavir says that's what the non-violence is. We're going to continue on non-violence next lecture.
Okay.
So bring your mug, we have soup.
Yeah, we have soup, huh?
We use
So
the
don't
same
go away.
mug. I will serve you.
Barley ka soup. Jay, welcome back. અમારા યોગા સેન્ટરમાં તમારું સ્વાગત છે. તમે તો હવે બબે વીક આવો છો જતા રહો છો તમે અમે જ વધારે કહીએ. You come 2 weeks and then go and then 1 week and go.